Poppy. Um, Welfare in Canada, is it something that we should have or not? Well, my stance on it is yes, we do need a social safety net. Yes. Um, no one can guarantee that they're going to have a job forever. It should be illegal to strike for job security because it just, there's no such thing. I've had over 80 jobs in my lifetime, and I've never been fired. And I've only quit a handful. Most of them just run out. Just the way it is. And when that happens, sometimes you have to, put your hands out. And although it's not something you would like to admit to or be a part of, and it is very humbling to have to do that. Just to give you a little bit of history of myself, okay, I'm pretty much a right-wing guy and stuff like that. I, prep and, believe take care of yourself and, help others as much as you can. But my grandfather had a very, very good saying, there's a fine line between generosity and being taken advantage of. And this is true. But when it comes to welfare now, I've lived in low-income areas most of my life, being a single guy. You don't need a fancy palace to live in. You'll live in the low-income areas just because it's cheap, and then you can use your spare income to buy whatever. But that also means you live around a lot of welfare bums. And yes, some of them are bums. When you get up in the morning and you're going to work, they're still sitting on the case of beer that, with their starving kids beside them, but they got their cigarettes and their beer. That pisses you off. Sorry for the language. And you ask yourself, well, if I can get up in the morning and go to work, why can't they? There's no reason. But there's no incentive to get off it. But do we need it? Yes, we need it. But it's, here in Canada, it's, drank a lot of Pepsi. Horribly flawed, because if you try to force anybody to get off welfare, oh, you bad, bad man, bash, 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 politically correct 2x4. But that's creating a dependence on somebody. And like we see in Greece and Spain, I mean, those people need it, but they don't have it right now. That's what's going to happen. In the United States, I'm a Canadian looking down, they got 47% of people on government handouts of some sort. I don't know how many of them are exactly on welfare, but here in Canada, we have 7.9% unemployment. But you have to understand, if we're 33.5 million people, the United States is, the United States is 10 times that. 300 million people plus. So that's a bigger pot of cash that has to come out. Now the problem we have here in Canada is we have two systems. We have welfare and we have unemployment. I think they should be both put together. And now they've been picking on, the Conservative government has been picking on people on UIEI, unemployment insurance, employment insurance, whatever you want to refer to it as. Cash for life. No, cash for about a year. The difference is one, with EI, when you work for it, you can get a percentage of your income, a good percentage of your income, if you have more than a couple of thousand hours, and you can draw full employment or whatever. And they come up with all kinds of politically correct names like, employment security, whatever, because they don't want to, bring people down here, put them in, you're in bum class, And there's people that work seasonal, so sometimes they have to draw it. Okay, that's fair, people like me who live in the middle of nowhere, and how I've been able to not have to go on it has been, a mystery to me, but I just seem to happen to be lucky and find enough work here and there. But I struggle, I struggle. But I've had to use it in the past. Very humbling, didn't like it. I was never on it for very long. And, and I did appreciate it was there, but what I would do is if I lost my job, I'd go apply right away. Even if I'd find a job before it would get there. It'd be like, don't wait till the last minute to do stuff like that. So what I would do is the system's there, might as well use it. I paid into it, might as well use it. But then it gets to the point where not everybody thinks the way I do. So it's like, okay, well, what do you do for the people that just want to sit on it forever? I know people that, grew up on welfare and their kids are growing up on welfare. You know what I mean? Like, where do you draw that line? How do you get these people to get out? Because me, it was never a question of, did I want to work or not? I've always wanted to work, Now, that said, disability is a totally different animal. I believe in disability for sure. But it makes me wonder what would happen if government collapsed and there was no welfare or unemployment. Wow. Or disability. That would be tough times, wouldn't it? That would be very, very, very... There's a lot of people that would not live through that. So yes, we do need it. But here's the problem: is we've outlived our means, or we outlive our means very very big time in Canada. We don't have the tax base to cover the amount of people that we really do have in those social needs. So where's that money going to come from? Well, this is where we really got to put people back to work. So I think what they should do is school or work system, where, okay, you lose your job, fine, take whatever you can get. Jim Flaherty said it best: there are no bad jobs. True, but it doesn't mean you're going to get a job that's going to pay enough. Like if you live in the middle of nowhere and you have to travel to the city to work, you're looking at, you got to make good money to just be able to afford the fuel. So there's things like that they have to take in consideration. I mean, if you're working for $100 a day and it costs you $120 a day to travel, obviously that's not a good job, right? So you have to have a common sense approach to this. But the idea of people just sitting on it, I mean, okay, you can give them an excuse to a point, but to me, like people in the city, if you don't have a job and you're in the city, it's because you're not looking, or you're just not willing to work, that's the thing. They're talking about raising benefits here in Canada, but don't do that. There's no incentive to get off it, but what would happen if it was gone? That's, I guess, the big question. What would happen if it's gone? So for me, my line is, yes, I do agree that we need it, but we do need to reform welfare, like, big time. The amount of scams, is unbelievable. And we need to get people back into the workforce. That's the big one. For me, it was never a question. I've been on it, and it was like, well, as soon as I'm on it, I'm looking for a job right away. First time I went on welfare, I've only been on welfare two times in my life. I'm nearly 40 now, and that was back in my 20s. Starting out or whatever. They allowed you to work and make a little bit of money, and you could make a little bit of money, but if you made too much, it'd cut you off. But if you made enough for them to cut you off, you were doing okay, I guess. And I was like, okay, well, that's fair for me. That's, unemployment, I've used it a couple of times. Jobs run out, and anybody that's high on their horse that says, I'd never use that, never do that, you will. When 1 week after you have no money coming in, you don't realize what broke is. I have used soup kitchens. I did a video on that, again, way back in my 20s. It's humbling. It really is, So, I mean, I'm not the pillar of wealth, and I knew that, but I also knew that you can't live outside your means. So you got to plan for the rainy day, so when your job does disappear, that you got a little bit to get you through in case you have to apply for one of these things. And if you know that your job is going to come to an end, go apply. Don't wait. But it may come to a day, probably in the next decade or two, where we just don't have that service anymore, or it's reserved for very, very select few people. It does get taken advantage of, and it is costly. And there's no incentive for people, because politicians, I find, are too soft on it. The unemployment thing, yeah, for some reason they're like, well, we're going to make people take whatever job they find. If there's a job that's available, you take it. Okay, well, do it for both. But why do we need two systems? Wouldn't it be more efficient if we had one system, make it easier to get onto, but say, okay, well, you get 30 days, and then, you take whatever you find, so that people aren't growing up generation on generation on it. Now, there's always going to be, case-by-case scenario where, okay, this person is absolutely in the middle of nowhere, I don't have a vehicle, so it's very hard for me to find work. I have to find work within my community, which so far I've been doing okay, but that might change. But that's why I wear so many different hats, not just physical hats. I mean, I trap, I'm a construction worker, I'm snow removal, you name it, I do it. If there's somebody that has something that needs to be doing, I do it. And there's, you don't like every job you're going to get, but there's a lot of, like anything, I'd rather be working than not. I don't know. I don't know how we'd make welfare better, like in the sense of getting people off it. Like, how do you get somebody who doesn't want to work? You know what I mean? It's very, very difficult, and especially if there's no incentives, and if it's not enforced. Like, how do you enforce that? Say, okay, well, you can get it, but you're going to spend this much time. You're going to come to our office. We're going to set you up with a job if you can't find one within X, Y, Z amount of time, even 6 months. Because like I said, there's people that have been on it for years, and there's a study that they did, and it showed that the longer people are out of work, the less they want to work. Yeah. So And this isn't just a bash the welfare people kind of. This is a really serious problem, and it's not just in our country. It's in just about any country that has this kind of safety net, because it is kind of unsustainable. You need to, need to create products. This is where the NDP and the Liberals really scare me, is because they promote it so much. Oh no, no, because they know that people, going to give me a free lunch, free this, free that. There's no such thing as free. It's pay me now or pay me later. And you can't have people sitting on welfare and not working, and then just that's how you're going to get votes. No, no, you gotta get these people. I mean, it's not something that people will appreciate that, but the people that are paying for it, people that are sitting on their butts won't appreciate it getting kicked off the welfare, but the people who are paying for it will appreciate that. But do we need two systems? Do we need an EI system and a welfare system? Or how about we just amalgamate the two? I think it'd be more cost effective. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. I mean, I will say this, though. It is extremely difficult to get on unemployment insurance. It's like a 2-month wait. I mean, you could starve to death in 2 months, you know what I'm saying? Or lose everything you own. So I think that system needs to change, where you can get on it within a week or two. But, you need more aids to get off it. Okay, this guy doesn't have much job skills. He wants to better himself. School, school, work, one or the other. So either take whatever job is available or take some sort of upgrading. I think that would be much more, beneficial. But anyway, I don't know. I guess we'll leave it at that. You guys tell me what you think. All right, so back in Canada again, got my Poppy. Welfare in Canada, is it something that we should have or not? Well, my stance on it is yes, we do need a social safety net. Yes. No one can guarantee that they're going to have a job forever. It should be illegal to strike for job security, because there's no such thing. I've had over 80 jobs in my lifetime, and I've never been fired. And I've only quit a handful. Most of them just run out. Just the way it is. And when that happens, sometimes you have to, put your hands out. And although it's not something you would like to admit to or be a part of, and it is very humbling to have to do that, just to give you a little bit of history of myself. Okay, I'm pretty much a right-wing guy and stuff like that. I, prep and, believe take care of yourself and, help others as much as you can. But my grandfather had a very, very good saying, there's a fine line between generosity and being taken advantage of. And this is true. But when it comes to welfare now, I've lived in the low-income areas most of my life, being a single guy. You don't need a fancy palace to live in. You'll live in the low-income areas just because it's cheap, and then you can use your spare income to buy whatever. But that also means you live around a lot of welfare bums. And yes, some of them are bums. When you get up in the morning and you're going to work, they're still sitting on the case of beer that, with their starving kids beside them, but they got their cigarettes and their beer. That pisses you off. Sorry for the language. And you ask yourself, well, if I can get up in the morning and go to work, why can't they? There's no reason. But there's no incentive to get off it. But do we need it? Yes, we need it. But it's